Hi, this is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and today we're talking about a very personal subject. I know this is going to be a very personal subject, but I really know that it must be talked about. So many people have so many triggers during this time of year, and I will tell you probably the number one trigger that most people have is being triggered about a loved one that they've lost. Someone that they've lost, and it doesn't have to be in the last few COVID years. It doesn't have to be in the last 5 years or 10 years. It can be any time in their life. Someone that they've lost many, many, many years ago. People get triggered during this time of year. Now, it doesn't give them the right to take that out on anybody else or kind of hold that over people, but I want people to understand is like, I deal with so many clients that come to me and they're looking for that closure. They're looking for that closure in their life from hearing from a loved one, getting a message from a loved one. And I will tell you more often than not, during the holiday season, this is the time of year that most people kind of just crawl out from like time of loss, grieving, overwhelmed, and really just kind of like, I just miss her. Just miss him. And it could be any her, an aunt, a mom, a grandmother, a friend. It could be a father, an uncle, a brother, a sister, a grandfather. It doesn't matter who they were. It matters who they were to you. And this can be such a trigger for most people during this time of year. It can really be overwhelming for most people. And I will tell you that no matter how long ago that loss was, no matter how long ago that was, it's still a trigger during this time of year when you see, something that they were really good at making, or they were known for making the best stuffing or whatever it is. This time of year triggers us. And it's really not just, like the holidays like Christmas and Hanukkah and some of those, but it's like even further back, as you go back into Thanksgiving and that sort of thing. People get overwhelmed, and they get overwhelmed really, really easy. So this is kind of my plea, not only to you, take it easy on yourself. And if you feel sad, if you feel like crying, if you feel overwhelmed, let it go. Allow that to be okay in your family. Allow that energy to be okay. And I think that's kind of the best answer to any of this is so many times people kind of like try to hold that energy down, and it doesn't work. I guarantee you it doesn't work, because I've tried it a million different times in a million different ways. But I will tell you that one of the most important parts is not only be kind to yourself, but be kind to others. That doesn't mean that you allow someone else to treat you badly or anything else, but it's one of those having that understanding that they're probably grieving too, and make it okay to talk about the person. So many times when someone passes in a family, like the family barely talks about them, barely says anything, and it's almost, letting you know, but also letting the kids know that it's not okay to talk about your feelings. It totally is okay to talk about your feelings. It's okay to talk about that person truthfully and honestly. It's okay to talk about, she wasn't the best person, or he did the best he could, or whatever it is. It's one of those, not just remembering the bad times, or not just remember the good times, but remembering them for their whole life. Remember the laughter, the fun, the excitement. Remember, everything that they did. You know what I'm saying? It's like burning the turkey or whatever it is. Like having a true outlook of a person during this time frame is really important. I know so many families that, oh, we don't want to talk bad about this person, and I was like, it's not talking bad about them, it's talking about who they really were. Who were they really? No one's ever perfect. No one's ever perfect, no matter what they try to do or anything else. It's not holding that person to a perfect accountability. It's holding that person in the right energy, holding that person in the right frame of mind so that they are getting the energy that they deserve. I think that's really important. It can be really important to not only you and your family your age, but younger people as well, kind of teaching them it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be overwhelmed during this time frame. It's okay to cry. It's okay to let that out. And it's okay to talk about that person honestly and openly, because that's what's going to make your life move forward. That's kind of the grieving process, moving into a great energy. Like I said, most people grieve really, really hard. I would say anywhere from like 2 to 5 years, and it doesn't mean that the person that only grieved for 2 years is any less, full of grief than the one that grieved 5 years. There isn't a competition for grieving. There's not a competition of who loved them the most. Each person in their life, they had a different relationship with. So even though your mom passed, your brother's mom passed, but he had his own relationship with your mother. Interesting. And their friendship and their excitement and their, the way they dealt with each other is completely different, because it's one of those, no matter how many siblings you have, your parent was different to each of you because of what you required from them. And I think that's one of those amazing kind of like, wow, never thought of it that way. My mom had 5 kids, and both my parents are gone, my mom and my dad, but they had 5 kids. So who they were to my older siblings, each of them, and then to who they were to each of my younger siblings is completely different. The way they acted, reacted, it also had to do with where they were in their life and what was going on. And that all makes a difference. Every person in their life had a different relationship, even siblings, even their siblings to them, their brothers and sisters or whatever it is, really had their own relationship with them. And that's the important part to understand, is this is not just you grieving, you're teaching your family how to grieve and how to grieve for generations to come. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be overwhelmed. It's okay to have reactions that not everybody else is having. It's okay to kind of feel much better at 2 years than someone is at 3 years. It's okay. Everybody grieves in their own pace, in their own way, in their own time. And I will tell you, one of the most important parts of this is to understand that grief is theirs and it doesn't belong to anybody else. And what they choose to do or how they choose to grieve that person is most important. It's most important that you support them as they walk through that journey, and not like, well, you should be this far along at this point or this far along at this point. As long as they're hitting some of the milestones, it's all okay. And I think it's been one of the things that I've heard from most people is really having that grief with their family members can be such an overwhelming thing. And especially if this is the first Christmas without them, the first holiday, the first Hanukkah, the first whatever it is without that person, I think it really hurts everybody. But talk about them, talk about what they would have been doing or how they would have been dealing with things, good or bad. Be truthful. Let's not talk about that part of it. Be truthful with that person. Be truthful with their spirit and their energy. I thank you so much for joining me today, and I know that we'll be talking again soon.